to wrestling and all that's in between. On the MIC, it's the KEY to recall what we see. Like a magic trick can take you back, so open sesame. Come with us, we'll take a ride through epic memories. That nostalgia that hits you hard and gets you every time. That do you remember? Makes you laugh and sometimes makes you cry. It's the bops, the shows, the shops. Frank and Jen don't stop. Welcome everybody to Dillo's Pop.
This on our YouTube channel is the latest edition of Dillo's Pop. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank. And for the next, 30 to 45 minutes, I don't know how long this one is really going to go here. We're going to do, this kind of offshoot podcast live stream that we like to do on occasion, not frequently enough. Dillo's Pop, where we tackle some pop culture things. And of course, like we kind of just throw things out there and decide to do, Jen. I was like, well, we must talk about the new Billy Joel song. It is our right as native Long Islanders. We would be doing a disjustice, an injustice, a disservice, and a disjustice if we did not talk about it. But then we realized this morning, it was the Super Bowl yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
Which at this point in the world is the ultimate pop culture extravaganza with the Empress of Pop so prevalent in the world. None of that. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but first we have an announcement, and it's not the announcement so many of our guests at DillosDizResort.com are expecting. DillosDizResort.com, of course, is our Patreon. That's with memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. DillosDizResort.com. That $1, it gets you into our one-channel Discord, which is always hopping with tangential conversations aplenty.
Oh, yes.
Last night, Jen was in there talking the halftime show, which we can touch on a little bit here this morning. But the announcement has nothing to do with what everyone at the resort and maybe the world, maybe globally, are discussing as well, is when will our next meetup be in Walt Disney World? What weekend will we choose for quote unquote find Frank for 50? I think it's like hashtag 3F450. I don't know, something like that. It feels like a change. We don't have that announcement yet, and I am to blame. I continue to blame myself for these things. Maybe I'll know more at the end of the week.
We all blame you, so it's not just you blaming yourself.
Oh, you're blaming me as well. I see. But it should be noted here today, since it is almost mid-February, right? It is almost mid.
Yeah, it's mid-February. What's wrong?
I don't. I hear a voice in your. Something is talking to me. Do you hear a voice?
No.
There is a voice talking to me, and it's going across the screen and saying, "Jen, mute, stop cam." It's talking to me, and I don't know why. What is happening? I'm not having issues. No, I don't want.
Do you want to go out and come back in?
I might have to go out and come back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why don't you do that? You're hearing voices.
I'm having
Take
issues.
a moment for yourself.
Please stop. I'm going to put this up for a second, Jen. Introduce. There we go. Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. There you go. Do you want to go out? There you go. All right. So our announcement is about Dillo's Madness, which looks maddening when I do that. So Dillo's Madness, as it is every year, is coming in March. Do we have everything set up yet? Of course not. But will we figure it out? Yeah, of course we will. Dillo's Madness, if you don't know, in years past, we set up a little bracket, just like March Madness, and we set up various things. Sometimes it's attraction based, sometimes it's movie based, sometimes it's a mix of all the things. So this year, Dillo's Madness, starting next month, Frank, are you hearing voices?
I'm no longer hearing voices. So my StreamYard started going off the rails and it was going, leave studio, stop cam, Jen, mute, stop cam, present. And I was like, what? Why are you talking like this? What is happening?
The robots are coming. This is Jen's shows now. You must leave.
So you announced Dillo's Madness is returning. What else did you say?
Yes, I did. I just said it was returning. I explained for those who might not know what Dillo's Madness is, how we've done it in the past, what different things have been included. And do we have it all figured out quite yet? No, not really.
So more to come. I think we could say, though, in some fashion, it will be exclusive to DillosDizResorts.com.
That's true.
So more information to follow there. We are anticipating a start around the Ides of March. So 4 weeks from this week. So some in and around the Ides of March, the return of Dillo's Madness right there. Not to be confused, of course, with Dillo's Pop.
Which is what's happening right now. That's what you're watching right now.
That's what's happening right now. So I do have this in topic form here. I have a Super Bowl talk. I have a Super Bowl spectacle, because halftime show, commercials, etc.
Sure.
And then the real topic on hand, which is Billy Joel's Turn the Lights Back On. The Super Bowl last night, as it was predetermined, as it was written, as it was scripted, as hashtag everything is wrestling. The Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions, much to the chagrin of the 9-year-old and the joy of the tomorrow 8-year-old. So don't let them talk about the Super Bowl this weekend when they get together.
Facts. I mean, I think the 8-year-old is her joy mostly from being a Swiftie.
Correct.
Right. So I think that would probably be okay. Yeah, the 9-year-old, if you don't know, and maybe you do because you've listened to the podcast before, but my children are early bedtime goers. However, the 9-year-old was like, I'm going to stay up for the whole Super Bowl. We're like, okay, fine, whatever. Because last year, I don't think he even made it to halftime before he was asleep on the couch. So we were like, whatever, that'll just happen again. No, he stayed up for the whole thing. And we, as parents, felt really bad parents last night because he was up until 11 o'clock because then they went into overtime. What happens? So, yeah, we were like, listen to me. You cannot get up early tomorrow. You have to sleep. We'll get you up for school. Don't worry about it. You just sleep. Now, he was up by 7:30, which, by the way, is late for him.
Late
but
for him.
still, 11 o'clock, you think he would go later. But yeah, not thrilled with the outcome, but it was a very close game there.
It was a very close game. And, if it was really scripted, everyone, Mahomes would have thrown that pass to Kelsey with 6 seconds left, and he would have scored the if it was truly scripted and they weren't trying to throw us off by having someone else score the winning touchdowns.
That's right.
Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting in any way that the NFL or the Super Bowl are scripted. No.
Check your TikTok for conspiracy theories.
Jen, overall, because this is like your first full season of football from start to finish that you have ever consumed, all 17, 18 weeks, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
I'll never get out of my head that it's more than 16 regular season games, the playoffs, the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts about finally taking the full ride here from beginning to end?
I think personally, I think my perspective on football is fantastic. And really everyone should hear it. But while watching the game last night, and because, it was here's my perspective. It was a slower start. The score was low, not much was happening. Now, Mr. Snidillo provides the perspective of that's because both teams are just really good. So no one can get anything done. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. There's not. I guess they're both doing what they're supposed to be doing. That makes a lot of sense. But it was a nice little ride through football. I learned some more. I ranted some more, and but ultimately, still the Super Bowl remains for me mostly about the commercials and the halftime show. So I still stayed mostly true to that, but. I took it all in otherwise.
What is your pulse? What are you taking a pulse on the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift relationship? Where do you in pop culture conversation? Where do you fit this in the course of pop culture history?
Pop culture phenomenon. I mean, goodness gracious. So, of course, let me choose my words carefully. When it all started, everyone was very, is this fake? Is this a PR stunt? Is it both of these people, whichever side you're on, if you are a football fan and not a Swiftie, or if you are a Swiftie and not a football fan, you might not realize how big these two people are prior to this in their own worlds. They are huge, both of them. They both have a ton of money. Travis has all his sponsors. He's on every commercial. To sit here and be like, oh, sorry, I'm already ranting, and be like, oh, Taylor's going to help him out. He doesn't need help. He's on every commercial, people. So he was already big. Now, although it is not a PR stunt, there is a PR factor to it where obviously it's still helping them in staying current, staying in everyone's face, being everywhere. Do I personally get annoyed with the Monday morning headlines of Travis and Taylor kissed after the game? Travis and Taylor left the stadium hand in hand. They are dating. They are not denying dating. They've been dating for a while. Obviously, she's watching the games. It's all here. I was so now you got me on a roll. I was so annoyed all week as the TikTok is showing me the Travis Kelce in the press conferences that he's had to have in Vegas all week.
Right.
And these questions that some of these reporters are asking, I'm like, are you joking? What advice has Taylor given you that will help you with the game? Taylor Swift doesn't need to give Travis Kelce advice on football. She doesn't. And it's just questions like that. Who will get a ring first? Stop, all of you. Just, it's ridiculous. So, and then people get mad at Taylor. Ugh, it's her fault. It's her fault she's on the screen all the time. It's her fault she's on the Jumbotron. It's her fault that she's all over the headlines. Is it? Or is it all these people going, who's going to get a ring first? It's them. It's not her. But whatever. So I think in terms of pop culture phenomenon, I think it's massive because it's just such a crazy time where two forces have come together. And so, like, I also think for the Swifties of the world and and even maybe those football fans to see Taylor Swift at a stadium, like, oh my God, she's just like us. She goes to watch her boyfriend's games just like the rest of us. It's that kind of mentality. But it's been a crazy few months, and I love how people just constantly try to predict what's that. Do you think he's going to propose right after No, he's not proposing to Taylor Swift on the field after the game. What is wrong with you? Of course not. Do you think they're probably going to break up in a month? Okay. She's probably going to write a song about it. You mean like all the men who have ever broke up songs in the history? Stop it. So I have a lot of feelings about it that are very ranty, but overall, I think it's a huge, like, when you look back on years of what was big in 2023 and 2024, this is going to be the biggest probably in terms of pop culture, I would say.
And I think it's again, we're acting also like we've never had this kind of relationship before where people just show up everywhere and we get angry. Whether especially when you see this Dunkin' commercial with our good friend Tony Robinette. But we all lived through Affleck J-Lo the first time. I think we can say of everyone watching this. I think most people were around for that. But we went through Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. We went through Madonna and Sean Penn. Like what celebrity relationships that take on this kind of phenomenon, like this is how it goes. This is what people are drawn to. And maybe you're not out there buying the National Enquirer and Star like Mama Dillo was back in the late 80s, early 90s. But this is what social media is for. Instead of buying those periodicals as an impulse buy in the grocery store checkout line. What do you mean aliens are landing?
No, they said it.
They said it. Now you can read that X tweet that says, "Oh, what were these unidentified flying objects? Over such and such place on such and such date." So again, the idea that like this isn't part of the norm is, a little. We're overreacting a little bit. Yeah, I think she got more TV time last night. I think she did, but but it's also the Super Bowl. It should be exponential. This is the story that's been told. They are television producers at the end of the day. They have to tell this story. This is the story being told. And speaking of telling the story, this Thursday on Theme Park Thursday, the podcast, we have author of Tell Your Story, Alice Fairfax, a former Walt Disney World storyteller herself, to join us for the podcast. So make sure you check that out this week on Theme Park Thursday. Jen, back to you.
No, and it's funny how you're saying spectacle. And do you have that as part of the
That's the next one,
right?
The spectacle. Yes.
But because in the beginning of the game, the 9-year-old was getting a little frustrated with all the commercials, and we're like, buddy, this is what the Super Bowl is. And we kept saying it's a spectacle. It is it is all about the money spent on the commercials. It is all about the show, what celebrities are there. It is not just a football game. It's completely different. So as you just said, spectacle. Yeah, that's the exact words.
And I saw you mentioning, explaining horror movies to the 7-year-old via your tweet yesterday.
Yeah, that was like one of the first commercials that popped up early.
The things landing, like day one, whatever it was, or
was that it? I don't even remember now because there was such like, but it was, so all you hear is, and they're like, it's creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy. The 7-year-old is like, let me just paint the picture of my living room. The 7-year-old had created this box fort for herself. So she's inside a box with her Barbies on the edge of the box, right? So she's in the box. She sees this, she hears it, she senses it, and she's like, ain't that scary? She covers her eyes. The 9-year-old is next to me, and she goes, cover his eyes. It's a creepy commercial. Like, everyone has to take cover. So then she's like, why are there these movies? Why is it so creepy? Who likes creepy things? Do people actually watch creepy things? And I go, yes, there's a whole genre of movies that are called horror movies, and people like to go to the movies and like to be scared. She's like, what? Why? Don't they have nightmares? I'm like, I don't really know. I some people just like it. And she's like, I don't understand why there's these. And it was really funny 3 minutes of just chaos.
Yeah, we might have talked about it when you ranted about the Oscars a couple of weeks ago on Theme Park Thursday Live, but which you can check here on our YouTube channel. But I think, that being a shared experience, as we like to talk about here on the podcasts and the live streams all the time, it was a rare case, I think, that whole Barbie phenomenon, but the one genre of film that I still think has those shared experiences, so I can't speak to too much because I'm not going, is horror movies. I think people still go out on the opening weekend of a horror movie and to get the expletive out. I almost spelled it like the woman in the Field of Dreams session about the books, banning the books and the SH. And the horror movies, though, I feel like still have that shared experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So the spectacle, Jen, I think you and Mrs. Dillo is such a huge Usher fan. So while I appreciate, I'm old, but I'm just I age out just enough on the peak Usher times. Yeah. You can provide a little perspective, I think, on the Super Bowl halftime show.
I love how that qualifies me to provide the perspective on the Super Bowl. I had prepped the kids earlier in the day. I was playing some Usher so that they could get used to some of the songs. And also, and Usher is somebody that when you go back and listen, you're like, oh man, I know so many of the songs. Right. Like it's crazy. So I don't know, again, if you know us, my favorite halftime show is Britney and Sync and Aerosmith. So my expectations are not Dilloed when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the Super Bowl in a way, because I expect them to be better than that, and if they're not, oh well. So I don't know that I go into it like, "Ooh, I'm so excited to see this," but I was intrigued. Um, I thought it was a little bit of a slower start. It was
Mm-hmm.
interesting that he took a slower start. Uh, and then all of a sudden I hear the piano and I go, "What? Is Alicia here?" And then Alicia Keys pops up and I'm
Right.
like, "Well, that's nice. We have Alicia." And then at and then he starts with the costume changes, and he starts with the roller skates, and he starts with more of the spectacle, right? And he creates the entire performance. I saw Lexi say in our one channel Discord how, it felt bigger than last year and it felt like it took up the space better. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree. It reminded me more of like some of the older halftime shows where they get the crowd in front.
Right.
And so he had a ton of performers, which was
Mm-hmm.
great. And I don't know if many people know that I'm a big Luda fan. So Luda came out. I was like, what? Yes, Luda.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty happy with that. And Lil Jon. And so I think it
I would like to
got that.
mention that when you say Luda, you're talking
Yep,
about Ludacris, right?
I am. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying how long it took me to figure that out. I was like, is Luda somebody different? No. Okay. Old.
Old here, very old. Luda. So I thought a little slower start, finished great. However, I then felt like, oh, now it's done too soon. Like you were just getting into it. It's done too soon. And of course I'm watching the Twitter X as this is happening to just annoy myself. And so people are talking mostly, kind of similar thoughts here and there. And then you see people, oh, age is really catching up to him. Excuse me? This is a 45-year-old man on roller skates doing a whole performance with costume changes and guess singing live from the get-go, singing live where he's singing.
Mm-hmm.
So is he going to be a little out of breath? Yeah. Do you see what he's doing? I was like, I am 42. And I went to sleep in pain, woke up in pain. I can't, what? What do you mean? He's doing just fine. Then he's taking clothes off, which, whatever you feel about that, but you see his abs? Stop it, everybody. Calm down. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I haven't. I couldn't. I'm not good on roller skates when I was a teenager, especially
That's
rollerblades.
true. I wish we had video. Those are times where you wish there was cell phone video.
Did any commercials stand out to you? Is there anything that?
Oh wait, but what did you think of the Super Bowl? I know. I mean,
I
I
was
guess
good.
I'm more
I
qualified
think
than you. But what did you
I
think?
don't. Yeah, I don't know if my 7.5 years older I've kind of evened out on how I feel about halftime shows. I feel like they're solid.
Yeah.
I'm not like they're up and down anymore. I feel like the last one I got a little wonky about. This is going way back, right? Is Maroon 5, where I don't deny that he didn't put on a show, but my expectations were higher, and so I didn't Dillo the expectations for that.
Yeah.
So
Before you go to commercials, if I can just bring up Theme Park Rob here. So how would you feel if Billy Joel played next year, or is he too old to resonate with the majority? You're asking us?
He goes.
He
And then
goes.
a year after that, Dave Matthews. Thank you.
Think our dreams are reality, Super Bowl.
Right. And well, in New Orleans next year, it'll be interesting to see. What I think is good about Billy Joel is the possibility of a Billy Joel Super Bowl halftime show is that I think you would see all-star guests with Billy Joel do it. Like if you listen to some of his live albums, like that Shea Stadium live album. Granted, Shea Stadium was closing, but you got Garth Brooks, you got McCartney, you got people on that live album that I feel like, and he does that at MSG here. For he's like 100 shows into Madison Square Garden monthly, and he'll often bring out a guest to perform. And I think so that's why I not that I wouldn't just want to see Billy Joel jam for 15 minutes. I totally would. But I do think the prospect of it being a little more all-star exists with Billy Joel. So that's why I would say that. Where, with Dave, if we're 1-2 here, we're Billy Joel and Dave Matthews, I think. But I think people would come jam with Dave Matthews, but I don't know if it'd be like an icon,
Yeah.
where you could totally see that a little bit more.
Yeah,
with
for sure.
Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Commercials.
Oh, commercials. I liked the Dunkin' commercial with our friend
Right.
Tony.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny. Like I thought that was a good one. I
Yeah.
thought Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken was a good one.
Put Christopher Walken in something. See if we don't like it. I mean, that's let me see what else.
Right, there was a very SNL vibe to the commercials. You had the Tina Fey commercial, you had the Walken commercial, you had all of a sudden you were like, oh, are we moving out of 90s nostalgia and into early 2000s nostalgia, where that peak
10 years ago,
that peak SNL time of Fallon and Tina Fey on news and Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell and all that whole crew.
Yeah,
was those shows were must see every week from that 2000 election.
Yeah,
for the next couple of years were very, epic. So it
Yeah.
was like must see viewing. So I feel as if I felt like we were dipping our toe in early 2000s nostalgia. I was like, oh no, we leaving 90s nostalgia? We're gonna have to close up the podcast.
But then they throw in Mr. T, so it was fine. So
I mean,
worked out, it balanced out. Also, I appreciate anytime I get to see Dan Levy, who is a friend in my head. So when I see him, I'm happy. So that was good too. But
a lot of Jeff Goldblum in the Wicked
Yes.
commercial, the Wicked trailer. The tomorrow she's 8 on the 3rd, I should say, because who knows when people are listening or watching this on the February 13th. The 7-year-old turns 8, and can we see Wicked before we see Moana 2? And how dare you, Miss Broadway over there?
Yeah.
So and I mean, and I think it was nothing that really wowed me. I just thought they were generally better than previous years also. And again, maybe we need to discount the last 3 years or so of anything, of halftime shows, of commercials, and just go, hey, we were lucky not everyone could make it and not test positive,
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Did you try the DoorDash promo code? Did you try that?
No.
We did. Mr. Dillo got 8% of it. So
Oh, okay. I did not.
Like, oh, the promo code's coming. What is this? What? How we're supposed to do this? He's like, let's see.
And I'm sure we'll do its own kind of episode of Dillo's Pop at some point. But you got the Schwimmer Aniston meetup there in that commercial, and we're halfway through season 2 of the morning show.
Oh,
so
yes,
which
we'll have to do that.
Which I don't know if I can. I think there's some feelings, but
like I said, Pop.
This is all I will say is that, right? And I said this about, I never watched Stranger Things past season 1 because I just thought it was like a perfect story from beginning to end, and I was like, I'm very happy with how this all turned out. I'm not watching future seasons. So with the morning show, when I got to the end of season 1, I was like, ooh, I love how this story was told from beginning to end, and but I like all those actors, so it's very hard to let go of the show, knowing there is more episodes out there and actors who I know are coming in later seasons that I like. So I was like, oh, I gotta keep going. But now I'm like, have I made the wrong choice? I don't know, but I'll hang in and I'll get there.
Yeah.
But I'm suspicious. Let's just put it that way. But good to see Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer on in that promo together. That Super Bowl ad.
Indeed.
And are you missing any other commercials that jump out at you before I move on to our main topic?
I might have to. I'll probably think of one later, but nothing's like popping in my head.
I remember thinking this Dillo's Pop episode was going to be 30 minutes, but here we are at the half-hour mark.
What? Who thought that? You thought that with all these topics? Come on. What do you mean?
So on February 1st, Billy Joel released a single, Turn the Lights Back On. On the 4th, he performed it live at the Grammys. And depending on the story, how the story is told, a lot of story references, which is a nice lead into our podcast dropping on February 15th with Alice Fairfax, author of Tell Your Story. Some people will say, oh, he hasn't released a single in 30 years. And some people say, well, he released Christmas in Fallujah, which was sung by somebody different. He did, it dropped for the first time when Stern first came over to Sirius XM. That was like 2006 or 7, whatever. And then there was another, like a love song thing for his wife for Valentine's Day that people like, no, it hasn't been since River of Dreams and that whole album in 1993, August 1993. By the way, Billy Joel released that album, I believe, August 1993. Might have to do a fact check, but I have it in my brain as a Sam Goody occasion there. I remember playing it the night before the official release date on that Tuesday. But August is a weird time to release an album. Jen, you have a date?
True. I did. That year, so in 1992, that year, Joel also started working on River of Dreams, finishing the album in early 1993. Let me see if I can get the exact date.
The release date.
The River. Let's see if it says August 10th, 1993. Yeah. Boom, did it.
So, which kind of lines
Tony.
up to.
All I had to do was look down. Tony already got it for us. Thanks, Tony.
So funny that that also lines up to our summer 1993 trip to Walt Disney World, where we were jamming to that cassette in the car. Cassettes.
Do
you have on a cassette? Appreciate that, Tony, for August 10th, 1993. And that all lines up. So we were obviously big Billy Joel fans. We've both been to live performances. You went to the Millennium concert, did you not? Is that true?
No.
MSG? You didn't go to that concert?
No. Maybe
1999 to 2000 with the double CD? No.
I think I saw him in 98, and then the Elton John Billy Joel concert. And what was that? 2002.
You really? I have revisionist history. I have that you went to that Millennium concert at Madison Square Garden. Why would you?
I'll have to fact check my own brain later. Maybe.
I guess that maybe just that CD makes me think that you did. But yes, so we've both been multiple times to see Billy Joel live. This was good morning, Joanne. Welcome to the chat. And Tony's in here, and Rob's in here still, and Jefferson's in here. So thanks for hanging out. So we, of course, when it was released, I think it was announced the week before. That it was like pandemonium. Like what? Billy Joel releasing a new album. Can you tell me in the week leading up to the release of the single, what was your expectation? Did you Dillo the expectation? What was your thought behind the song? Like what? Like you had were you thinking, oh, it's gonna sound more in the vein of Stormfront and River of Dreams, or were you thinking, oh, it could be like a classic kind of thing? Like where were you?
I don't think I thought anything. I don't think I like in terms of what it could be or what it would be. I was just excited that he was going to do it. But I don't think I set any kind of criteria or expectations on it.
So of course I I had a lot of expectations. But what's funny about us and our nostalgia and our Long Islandness, and so again, therefore we have an abundant knowledge of Billy Joel. Jen has never seen him walking around the neighborhood. I have interacted with him directly.
Ridiculous.
Even though how Jen has not in all the years on the North Shore of Long Island there. Not entirely certain. I have interacted and engaged and assisted Billy Joel in the past.
And now he's moving. So like, am I even going to see him? Is he going to come back and visit? I don't know. But that time he just started playing the piano on the sidewalk. If anyone remembers that viral video, 2 minutes from here. Why am I not there? Why did I not just walk by going, is that really cool?
So obviously the title alone turn the lights back on. I was like, oh my God, this is symbolic.
Yeah.
It's deeper than we're expecting here
Mm-hmm.
because of the, we know if you listen to interviews, if you've seen, you swipe the TikToks because Billy Joel's in your algorithm. I don't know. You see
Mm-hmm.
interviews where he's like, oh, I was just going to work on my classical music, or, oh, I just thought it was time, or, oh, writing frustrates me, like he said on the Grammys vignette
Mm-hmm.
before he did the show, the song live. So there is that kind of that symbolism behind it that I knew, like, all right, we're getting something, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't entirely convinced that it would what the style of the orchestration and everything else would be. I guess
Yeah.
the arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
That is where I was unsure if it was going to be a natural progression from where he was 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
or what the song currently is. So, Jen, the first time you heard the song,
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it back to you.
I mean, it gives you the feels. It gives you classic Billy vibes. I mean, again, we will say it over and over, but we grew up with Billy being in Long Island. It was just played all the time, whether it was on the radio, whether it was in our house, whether I was still in high school putting on old 8 tracks while waiting for AOL to dial up, whatever. Billy has always been a part of my life. And so, um, you know, you have heard the differences in certain songs over time, and there are times where I feel like certain albums or certain songs kind of match with moods because some of them do have such a different feel to them or different vibe to them or whatever it is. But to me, this went back to like more of, again, the storyteller that is Billy Joel,
Mm-hmm.
and just like a classic slow story with music that'll get you in your feels.
Right.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what I was not expecting was the again, am I musically educated? I am not. So the the motifs of the piano
Mm-hmm.
were more invoked more of that 70s Billy. Billy Joel for me, right, is the Innocent Man album,
Mm-hmm.
MTV,
Mm-hmm.
Tell Her About It, Young Girl,
Mm-hmm.
all
Yes.
longest time. Like that's
Yeah.
my introduction to Billy
Yeah.
Joel. So with that album, it's taken me longer, and I say longer, maybe like it's still happening. I think when I go back to
Mm-hmm.
listen to Turnstiles or anything like that, because I had never really listened to those albums from beginning to
Mm-hmm.
end, and now I have more recently. But those early albums, I don't are not. It's not of my time, right? The Innocent Man,
Mm-hmm.
Stormfront, River of Dreams is my time. So it's that. But this song, you know, was like, like you were transported,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously the words are such that if you're almost 50, they're going to punch you in the face a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
And that as obviously like the double entendre there in this storytelling, where I had to tell Mrs. Dillo, I'm like, listen, this is a song about the romance between him and his music. It has
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with a man who is older.
It's not about us. It's not about our relationship in any way.
I
Yeah.
just want you to listen to it with me telling you that I know a lot about Billy Joel. and
Yeah.
afterwards, she was like, and I was like, you'll see.
Remember what I said.
If you're listening to the audio of this, that was a head tilt followed by a finger and me raising my finger. And then when the Grammys, they did the vignette before he performed it, I was like, see.
Yeah.
But so to that, whether you're talking music in his case, or art, or whatever your passion is,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it can hit you differently.
Yep.
And I'm sure in where my mindset has been recently, I felt like it hit me a little differently. And so it was like just on repeat for 2 days straight, I think, when I
Yeah.
first listened to it.
Tony is
Ooh.
saying, FYI, just announced Billy Joel will be live on Howard Stern this
Oh,
Wednesday.
breaking
That'll be
news.
good. You have to tell the story about the clip you just sent me from him being on previously with Big
it was
Shot.
an old Stern
Yeah, yeah.
wait, right, with the Stern clip?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, the, we as we trade TikToks back and
Yeah.
forth all the time, that, there was one of Billy Joel on Stern where he was talking about, Big Shot. And so when he was putting that together, he said he was thinking about it because it was based on like a dinner he had with Mick Jagger and his wife at the time. I don't know, but
Yeah.
the so he started writing it as a Rolling Stones song, and he started playing it and doing a Mick Jagger impersonation of like, "Oh, you had to be a big shot." Like I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god!" I never thought of that being, as if Mick Jagger was singing it, and now I'll never hear it the same way again. But little things like that, just is the stories behind the story of the song that it's so layered, and and then, so this song, why I think it's going to be big, and you can see just on his placement on the Grammys, they want it to be big. They're pushing towards the album. That is
Yeah.
what we're on our way. Whenever it
Yeah.
may happen, we are on the way. He just did it at the Garden on Friday night. It was part of the song list. So it's working into the system, and then he's going to go on a big tour. That, the real reason why the MSG residency is ending is probably because he's thinking about a big tour with the album.
Yeah.
That's the real reason. There's no there's no mistaking that at this point in juncture, I think.
Yeah. Well, and also, with his move out of Long Island, I don't know. He might still have his house out east. I don't know if he still has that. The house that is near me, and even closer to our cousins, literally, like
Right. Is that a lyric of
right
his
there.
song? In Oyster Bay, Long Island,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's I'm sure he won't be spending as much time New York based, maybe, overall. But I think I've always found it interesting throughout the years because not that Billy Joel is only a New York person where only New Yorkers appreciate him or anything like that, but you do see when you meet people from other states across the country, whatever it is, that maybe he didn't play as big of a role in their life as he consumed ours. It's weird. Like, what do you mean during the summer you didn't drive past his house out east with your grandmother and great uncle and aunt? What do you mean? But but I think it's also interesting when certain people think of Billy Joel, like what song they think of and what song they consider better than other songs and what song doesn't even like show up on their radar. Um, and and that's always been really interesting to me. Like, what do like for me, I absolutely love songs from an Italian restaurant. And
Right.
so scenes, what did I say? Songs?
Yeah, you said
Scenes
songs.
from an Italian
You really
restaurant. Um, so like when people are like, I don't know that song, or they don't think of it that, I'm like, what do you mean? That's so good. But it's just interesting how his music finds his way into conversations or, pop culture. I don't think you watched what was it called? It is on the tip of my tongue with Ben Platt, The Politician on
No,
Netflix.
no, I did not.
And then one episode he sings Vienna, and like I think sometimes I don't always think of Vienna, not that I don't,
Right.
but I don't always, and that like re-sparked my love of Vienna, and I would listen to it more since then. And so it's always interesting to hear from other people. But do you have one song that you would tie to, like when someone says Billy Joel, does one song come to mind?
No, I do. I think as much as I am, and I say this because of the videos of the time, like, that whole Innocent Man album is, I feel like, is great.
Yeah.
But I think the song that I get most excited for hearing live, or that I listen to most often, is River of Dreams. I just think that there are lyrics in there that speak to me more. I hope I don't spend the rest of my life to finally find what I've been looking for. Like, that is a repeat,
Yep.
mantra. I talk, and that's what's been funny, like this past month for various reasons. And this month has been 6 weeks old, I think. So I saw him early roll along on Broadway. Like that's part of like those mid '90s for me. And based on a '94 revival, we did it at my college in '95 here on Long Island. And there's phrases and lyrics from there that stay with me as like life mantra stuff. And that River of Dreams kind of speaks to that a little bit. If I had to go older Billy Joel, I'd have to rack my brain, like Miami 2017. I seen the lights go out on Broadway. I'm like, that really like that song, again, it's like looking, it's looking at Miami 2017. Remember 2017, 7 years ago? That's fine, but in that kind of nostalgia look, and again, this is part of it. This is part of why we are the way we are. There is the story aspect. There's a nostalgia to his songs, even when they're current. It is nostalgic because you're telling a story. And so that I would, if I had to pick one, it probably would be Miami 2017. Like I remember the first time I saw Billy Joel live, which was in Miami, it was in Fort Lauderdale, but it was kind of like, oh, this is my Billy Joel song now. I remember that.
Yeah. I feel like I was thinking that I feel like there's different periods of my life for different albums too. And like I said, the A-Track, and I think the A-Track, I think it was a Stranger album on A-Track. Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't off the top of my head. Those blend for me still to this day.
And we might have, and there may have been more than one, and maybe that one just worked all the time.
Hi, SEO expert. Please send us an email to dillosdiz@gmail.com. Thanks for checking in.
But yeah, that to me is my AOL days, where I would put that in our computer room, quote unquote, and in our old vinyl 8-track cassette player that we had. And the sounds of AOL annoy me, but at least I have Billy Joel to calm me. But then like his Greatest Hits Volume 3, which came out in 97, to me, that album, and then speaking of Dave Matthews earlier, Dave Matthews Before These Crowded Streets, which came out in 98, like those two albums tie into like what?
I think that came out earlier, Before These Credits. Well, that's the third one, right?
Before These Credits. April 28th, 1998.
You are correct. That is 1998.
So, but like that's high school, so like those albums stick out to me as well. But since the kids were little, that I'll put on Billy Joel in the background as we're doing Legos or Play-Doh or whatever it is, and like possibly ingraining it into their heads of who Billy Joel is just in the background. But now, a couple of years ago, I now have a record player. So now I have Stranger on vinyl, and so I'll listen to that. But yeah, I think the storytelling, I think being from the same area, like when he is talking about Brenda and Eddie, like we know Brenda and Eddie, we know those people, we've experienced them in our life, all of that. But I see that Tony mentioned Vienna is his 16-year-old's favorite because of the TikTok surge. It's the timelessness that is Billy Joel that, just as time goes on and as he's reintroduced in different ways from different places and people start to realize where the songs are coming from and how they're being presented. I love that Billy Joel has an account on TikTok because there's just so many clips of old shows or interviews now. And I'm just like, rabbit hole. But yeah.
It's very there. And I feel like I'm seeing those more lately of kind of like isolated accounts for things that I'm like, oh no, this exists. Just watch this for like even Broadway shows. I'm like, oh, the kid is into Hadestown, so like I'm following Hadestown on TikTok, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, now I'm watching all the TikToks of Hadestown and into them with Ani DeFranco just starting this weekend, and I'm like, oh. Let's see, is there anything else before we ramp things up here? Like we expect an album, right? You expect an album at this point.
I mean, I would hope so. I hope so.
I don't, he's been writing down stuff all this time. It's not like he just stopped writing phrases and lyrics and
of course
hooks.
But he's just so good. I feel like, do I have specific things to still talk about in our final 10 minutes? Not necessarily, but could I fangirl about Billy Joel for hours? Yes. So, it depends on, do you want some rambling for a couple of hours, or do we want to be concise? But yeah.
No, and I think well, I will say, as we talk about Billy Joel being on Stern on Wednesday on Sirius, that again, they're both Long Islanders, right? And so we both relate also to, I think, their shyness and their introvertedness and their and that's without getting into it. I think I said it in the resort once before. I told the story, like, way back, of my interaction with Billy Joel, but it all started because Billy Joel was standing in the corner, and I said to my colleague, I said, "Why is Billy Joel standing in the corner? Does he need help?" and he was hanging back, let's just say, and I was like, "You don't have to hang back. I can help you get you what you need." And but that whole interaction was like, I'm like, you could Billy Joel could be me, and I could be the guy standing in the corner right now. Like, that is, I like whatever it is, and I know everyone is shy or introvert. Like, there's people everywhere. It felt very Long Island that I very much easily could have been that guy standing in the corner. And do you need help with something? I'm like, no, just wait. Thanks.
Yeah.
He didn't do Billy. That would have been me doing that. That's not Billy Joel doing that, where he was like, no,
no, it's okay. I'm okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think there is, he is familiar. He is, he feels like we know him. He feels like someone in our life, I'm not trying to be, New York is superior to everywhere. There's just a different vibe here in general. And when you grow up around here, there's just a different, I don't know how to explain it, but
Right.
I absolutely, and probably people feel like that everywhere they come from. You have vibes in different spots. If you're from LA, or if you're from, Chicago, or whatever it is, there's just different vibes everywhere. And I think he just feels like people we've met in our life, and people we know, and friends and family and all the things. He feels like our uncle. I don't know, not
Right.
literally our uncle, but like he could be an uncle. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think, just as a quick connection, I just watched that Elton John live concert that was, as Chapek's Final Bow, I think it's called. But I just watched it like a week or two ago, and I don't know if I ever thought about Elton John being LA, but to see that LA crowd, like, so into it, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not something I thought about before, was um that I mean, Elton John is huge everywhere, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the to me, like, he's still British. Elton John here is huge. We saw Elton John with Billy Joel, like we mentioned, like, it was huge. But I don't know, there was just something about that made me go, oh, this feels like a very LA concert. It's not what I was expecting. And again, when we talk about shared experiences and things like that, I think I was surprised by that in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, the 9-year-old's all in on Elton John, so, he also
Was he all in on that Pfizer commercial with Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now"? Was that a
yeah,
Pfizer
of course he was
commercial?
singing along. Yeah, naturally. Tony's saying he made a mixtape of Billy songs for friends for our high school graduation in 96. I listened to PLJ 95.5, yes, that year, to win tickets to go to his Q&A session. He is a soundtrack from my childhood and life. Tony, don't make me cry by saying something like that. I think I get emotional reading that. Yeah.
I don't know how I left this out, but again, I think you think towards the more slower, but like Only the Good Die Young is probably,
Ugh, I mean, yeah.
if I
Literally,
had
like
to
we
really
could,
put something on that,
right? Yes.
Only the Good Die Young would be
Yes.
the more.
I mean, I also feel like we didn't start the fire, first of all.
Well.
If I had, I'm not doing karaoke ever, but if I had a song, that would probably be it, because I know every word and I can do it all. And I used it as part of my Regents exam in high school. So tell the story. So sure. So I can't tell you what was on my global studies. What was it? I don't know, whatever that
Regents
Regents
exam?
is part of social studies exam that I did. And I used the sentence, Ayatollah was in Iran while Russians were in Afghanistan. it was my second highest Regents grade I got in high school. So obviously Billy helped with that. But I also have met since then, I have met someone else who only graduated high school within the last 5 or 6 years who also did that. So it continues. Apparently I'm not the only one, which was a crazy coincidence. But
Right.
I feel like We Didn't Start the Fire and Uptown Girl in my head are
Mhm.
probably the most seen music videos of my childhood
Right.
because I feel like those two were just always on. But yeah.
Yeah, We Didn't Start the Fire. I think, and I mean, maybe it's just based on the clips that I've seen, that I think how he talks about it now, it's more of its time and how he was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, uh, it was very of its time too. You're about to go into a new decade in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like, oh yeah, let's talk about the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was, I feel like sometimes he still does it all the time, obviously, so he doesn't dislike it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's obviously not on the
Yeah.
on the upper echelon
Mm-hmm.
of hits for
Yeah.
him. But that is, yeah, Stormfront came out when I was 14. So again, that's
Mm-hmm.
more in the wheelhouse, and the Billy Joel music videos for Tell Her About It, Uptown Girl, Longest Time, which were very much like mini movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you can make a case, like, right, Michael Jackson's Thriller obviously like set a bar.
Yeah.
But I think Billy Joel leaned into, and I would have to look at the dates and the release and the timing of all those videos. I feel like Billy Joel, to me, leaned into the thriller side
Mm-hmm.
of the craftsmanship of music videos, rather than the just like, pop, other
Yeah.
pop kind of music videos of the time. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they were telling stories. He was telling stories in the music videos too.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Speaking of stories, this Thursday on Theme Park Thursday, the podcast Thursday, February 15th, 2024, our conversation with Alice Fairfax will drop. She's the author of the book Tell Your Story. She's a former Walt Disney World storyteller, so make sure to check that out when the drop comes. We might try to splice a little bit of video there
Mm-hmm.
and drop it on Wednesday night to kind of do a tease for Theme Park Thursday. Of course, DillosDizResort.com is our Patreon, with memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. Dillo's Madness coming up in mid-March, so be on the lookout for that. It'll be a resort exclusive this year. We're trying to contain it to Dillo's Diz Resort, so that is the plan as well. And you never know when we'll pop up and do these things along the way, these Dillo's Pop episodes, as it were.
Yeah.
So thanks for checking us out here on a Monday morning. Until next time, she's Jen, I'm Frank. Bye-bye.
Deuces. For your one-stop shop for all things Dillos, visit DillosDiz.com. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at DillosDiz. Don't forget to join our Facebook group at Dillo's Diz Community Core. We have plenty to see over at youtube.com/DillosDiz. Remember to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you check into DillosDizResort.com with tiers starting as low as $1. Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz featuring Frank Cardillo and Jen Cardillo Snyder.